in Arabic, we have a proverb. You say, "Al-musafiru kal majnoon." It means a traveler is like a mad person. And then if you are a traveler waiting for another traveler, so before I start, if I know what you know about Islam, it will be helpful, because my main aim is to help non-Muslims to know about God and Islam. So I know you know that Muslims eat beef, so already, because she said something about India. Yeah. So have you had any course on Islam? Have you studied any book? I don't want to say something too basic or too advanced. Pardon?
I not exactly, but like in my degree college, I learned about like there's one particular subject on Islam, and there we learn about this story of how Muhammad Ali and all this. So a little bit of history, a little bit I know, but not so much.
And you?
Yes, okay, what was one paper, but it's not particularly Islam, it's a major religion of India.
Uh-huh.
So we have 6 religions.
Yes, I always studied Islam from my bachelor's to my master's. The master's level, at least I have a bit knowledge, and because of the kind of environment I come from,
Yeah.
here in Nigeria. So, yeah, I think I know little about Islam now, not because I'm the minister of scholars in Islam now. so I don't need to know. Talking from the history, the tenets, and the prayers.
So I say what I think would be useful, but please ask me any questions, or say we know this, go to the next. No problem. How much time we have? We want to allow some time for questions.
I think we should finish at 3:30, something like that.
Okay.
And then there is a break for half an hour, and then we will start again at 4.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have about 1 hour and 12 minutes, yeah?
10 minutes. Yes.
10 minutes, yeah. Okay. And Sister Sa, could you send a message to Masuma that if she needs anything to contact you, so that I don't need to check? Okay. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I am very happy to be here again. I've been here sometime for the group that we come here. So this is the 5th time we come with a group. But also, I've been here 3 times more at least, I think. One when was a dialogue of the World Council of Churches with the Shia in Iran. And twice I was invited to teach in the summer course here. And I was giving introduction to Islam. So I have that PowerPoint also here in front of me. So I always felt that the work which is being done here is very important work, and therefore it's very good to help and contribute in whatever way possible. And I hope our coming here, in addition to benefiting our Shia brothers and sisters to know more about Christianity and World Council of Churches, also is a sign of our appreciation of the work here, because there are many places that you can go, but we made it a point in our planning that if God permits, every year we come. If we have not come because of COVID or something, like last year, it coincided with the month of Ramadan. Otherwise, since 2017, that we have been kept coming, thanks to God. So we appreciate that we are among the people that we share with them our joint love for God and for humanity, and we try to work for unity within our communities and without. So unity has no borders. You cannot say, I only want unity here. If you are really working for God, who is universal, your work for unity has to be universal. So I very much feel here at home, and I feel I am among the people that I share with them our mission in life. So I have to explain two things for you. One is Islam in general, one also is Shia Islam, because we are Shia Muslims. So it's not that every Muslim is a Shia. Maybe 15, 20% of the Muslims are Shia. The majority are Sunni Muslims, who are also themselves, of course, based on their theology or jurisprudence, divided in different ways. But the general way of classifying Muslim into Sunni and Shia, which is not 100% accurate, but is about a specific way of understanding the topic of authority in Islam after the Prophet. So right from the beginning, it's not like, for example, Protestantism and Catholicism, that they split, after many centuries of having common history. Right from the beginning, even we believe in the time of the Prophet, the signs were emerging, but immediately after the demise of the Prophet, this kind of split took place. So we share all history of Islam, but with two different lenses. So the Shia have the idea that the divine authority in the form of guidance and leadership can only be handed over to the next leader according to the decision of God. So we don't believe that it was left to people and the Prophet didn't do anything so that they choose who should be the successor to the Prophet. Because we believe that's a divine position and God decides who becomes a prophet or who becomes an imam who is successor to the Prophet. Also, we have differences about the characteristics of that leader. So we believe that that leader must be the most knowledgeable person. Not every Muslim believes that the leader, the successor to the Prophet, has to be the most knowledgeable. It has to be the most spiritual. Again, not every Muslim has this idea that the Shia have. Must be infallible. Not everyone accepts that. So the Shia believe that the same qualities that prophets had, successors to the prophets must have, to be most knowledgeable, most spiritual, to be free from mistakes, and they must be designated by God. So we believe that there were 12 imams, 12 successors to the Prophet, so we are 12ers. And the last one is in the state of occultation. So from 260 after Hijrah, Islamic calendar, is starting with the migration of the Prophet from Mecca to Medina. So in 260 after Hijrah, when Imam was 5 years old, occultation started. It means people were not able to meet him except in a very specific circumstances. and he was not introducing himself to people. People didn't know where he is. He's alive, he's functioning as our guide, but he will be in that condition up to the end of time, when people are prepared to help him for establishing universal justice. And that is when we believe Jesus is going to descend, because we believe also Jesus is alive, with the difference that Jesus is raised by God. So he's no longer living on this planet among us, although he's alive. So he's going to descend and start the second phase of his mission. He completed the first phase before he was raised. He's going to complete the second phase when he descends, and will be together with the 12th Imam. Sunni Muslims believe in the same figure coming, but they don't believe him being the 12th Imam. So they jump just to the 12th. They don't believe in the first or second or third. And they don't believe in some of the qualities that we have, but they all shared, all Muslims, that Al-Mahdi is going to come as a savior, and he is going to be with Jesus, and they will establish universal peace and justice. So the idea of Muslims, whether Sunni or Shia, when it comes to certain elements, are the same, but with other elements, they are different. I share first the common ideas, and then I say what is different, and then I talk a little bit about some practices. Then you can ask questions. One idea that all Muslims agree, and we believe actually it's not only Muslim, we believe all Abrahamic faith share the idea, is unity of God, Tawheed, monotheism. And for Muslims, this is very, very important. Even the Quran puts more emphasis on unity of God than existence of God, because existence of God is not very difficult to understand. And even the pagans of the time of the advent of Islam, they were not in denial of God. They suffered polytheism. They were not atheists. Okay? They were idol worshippers who believed that these idols have been delegated some authority by God, some power by God, or by worshiping them, they can get closer to God. But they didn't deny God. Today in the world, we are facing with people who deny God. But in the past, this was rare. It was there, but maybe never in the course of history we had so many atheists in the world that we have today. So the greater emphasis of the Quran is put on correcting our understanding of God rather than introducing God for the first time. Because the Quran tells us that every human being is given an innate or God-given understanding of God. No matter where you are born or when you are born, every human being has an innate understanding of God, which has two elements: some familiarity with God and some longing for God. So it's both understanding and desire for God, or devotion to God, which is in every human being. Every child is born with this. كل مولود يولد على الفطرة. We believe every child is born with this innate understanding and desire for God. Therefore, Islamically, we believe that every child is immaculate. You don't need to do something for a child to become, a good child, or, to become saved, etc. Every child, whether born into a Muslim family or a religious family from another tradition or atheist family, every child is immaculate. And every child goes to heaven. Whether parents go to heaven or not, as adults, it depends on their actions. But for a child, it's all creation of God, and children are pure. Even we have this, set of hadith that even for believers who have miscarried babies, okay, the baby, when he's told to go to heaven, says, I don't go to heaven unless my parents join me. So the baby intercedes for the parents. Okay, so this different perspective about humanity and about the godly nature of human beings and how we think we are not affected by the original sin. Anyway, when we as adults are trying to find answers for our questions, then some of us come to answers in compliance with that innate understanding of God, and we become believers. That's when we become mature. But some people, unfortunately, they don't find a compatible answer. So they say, we don't know God exists or not, or some people deny God. So we have, agnostic, and we have, atheist. So this is all for adults. Otherwise, babies or infants all have this understanding of God. So Tawheed or monotheism is built in us. It's in our DNA, if you call it, but not just DNA in the body, DNA of the soul. And it's up to us to discover it. You don't need to, explore something unknown to you. Knowing about God is rediscovering what you already are introduced to. And we believe that the concept of unity of God shapes every other aspect of our faith. Just last night we were talking internally, we had a session to prepare for our days here. And, I was saying that how every aspect of our life should be shaped and formed by our understanding of unity of God. Even economy, even politics, our education system, our health system, everything should echo unity of God. And for sure, when it comes to human relations, it should echo unity of God. This is why one of our important mottos for the interfaith work is unity of God and unity in God. We have many events throughout the year in different countries, different continents, under this banner of unity of God and unity in God. Because we believe unless we work for unity of mankind, we have not been honest with our faith in one God. If God is one, we cannot be divided. If God is one, I cannot boycott parts of the people of God. Okay? It's like, for example, if you really love your parents, you cannot fight your siblings. Yeah? The first expectation of the parents is that siblings should love each other and help each other, even if they have differences. So, unity of God is very important principle for us, which shapes all other aspects of our understanding. Not everyone understood this clearly, and not everyone who understood managed to implement it, but this is the ideal for us. Every Muslim has to struggle to implement fully this concept of unity of God. Establish it inside yourself. Many of us, we don't have, unfortunately, unity inside us. We have so much of tensions inside that we don't have inner peace. Establish unity in yourself, in family, in community, humanity, everywhere. The second principle is prophethood. We believe that God has never left human beings with guidance. The Quran says, Pharaoh asked Moses, who is your Lord? Man Rabbukuma ya Musa. And Moses said, Rabbuna alladhi a'ta kulla shay'in khalqahu thumma hada. Our Lord is the one who created everything and then guided. So we believe in the principle of al-hidayatul amma, general guidance. God has created everything and guided everything. And when it comes to human beings, we have received more varieties of guidance through instincts, through conscience, through innate nature that we have, through intellect. We believe that intellect is a very important way of understanding the will of God, and through revelations. So we believe that God has not left any nation unless provided them with some messengers. لَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا. We have dispatched to all nations messengers. Maybe we don't know which, for example, messenger was sent to that part of the world or this part of the world, because we don't know the names of all the messengers, let alone knowing every geographical jurisdictions they had. But we know that God didn't leave any nation without guidance. And according to hadith, not according to Quran, the Quran doesn't specify number, but Muslims believe that there were 124,000 prophets. 124,000 prophets. So God has been very generous when it comes to our guidance. Yeah, he didn't, send only few. He has been very generous because he's very gracious. And these are the people who receive revelation from God directly in different forms. But among these 124,000 prophets, we call them Nabi, there were 313 Rasul, messengers. So we technically distinguish between prophet and messenger. Many prophets received revelation, but it was not involving a new book or even a new message. Okay? But there were 313 who received a message, or maybe some of them even a book. Other prophets had to preach the messages given to these 313. Okay? So, how many prophets? 124,000. Out of them, how many messengers? 313. Out of 313, 5 are the most outstanding. So these are the select of the select. Who are these 5? Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Prophet Muhammad. So now you understand to some extent, it's of course the beginning, there's much more, how much we love and respect Jesus. Because we love all 124,000 prophets and we have to believe in all of them. Then we have greater appreciation of the messengers because these 313 are at the top. Among these 313, 5 are at the peak. And Jesus is one of those 5. Okay? So, this is the principle of prophethood. Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet and messenger. So, there is no more book coming. There is no more revelation, prophetic revelation. Inspirations continue. God can inspire. But there will be no new book. Okay? The job of humanity is now to preserve and try to understand and implement the message which is already given by God. We don't need to wait for a new prophet to come, for a new messenger to come. We need to learn how to benefit from what is already available and how to make sure that we don't misunderstand it. God has guaranteed, according to the Quran, that this mission, which is solidified in this book, is not going to be distorted physically, in the sense that no verses or chapters of the Quran are going to be missing. But God not only has not guaranteed, rather has warned us about misunderstanding. He has not guaranteed that there will be no misunderstanding. There will be no physical missing happening, in the sense that we lose part of the book, but we have to be very careful about misunderstanding of the Quran. Okay? So this is very important aspect that, if I have time, I come back to this, for Shia methodology of understanding Islam. Then, because the Prophet is the last prophet and messenger, we have no new prophet or messenger who comes, but for Sunni Muslims, then it is left to people to decide how to continue. They can have their struggle in understanding Islamic rulings, Islamic teachings, but it's left to ordinary people. And we find that in the course of history, there have been many, many hot debates among Muslims. Even sometimes they had fights, sometimes they, prosecuted each other. But we Shia say it was not, God's plan to leave people without guidance. There is no new revelation, but God has not deprived us of divine guidance. So we believe in the imams who guide us. So the difference between us and non-Shia is that our benefit from divine guidance continues after the Prophet in the form of imams, who are our authorities in teaching us, first, the original teachings of the Prophet. Second, to teach us Islamic response and Islamic replies to new questions, without being in need of doing things that are not methodologically acceptable, like, we call qiyas, istihsan, masalih mursala. These are, technical discussions in Islamic jurisprudence. So some schools of Islam had to deal with new subjects by thinking, guessing, what is similar to what. For example, if Islam said this about this, and for this one we don't know, we say, okay, this looks similar, we do, some extension. But we don't accept these methods. We say everything must be 100% clear and proved. Otherwise, we cannot accept as Islamic position. So, prophethood leads to the topic of imamate. Another idea that all Muslims have, and we believe all Abrahamic communities have, is faith in resurrection. We are all going to survive death. Death is not end of us. This is only end of one phase of our life and beginning of a greater phase of our life. So we don't think by dying we finish. By dying, we just go to another phase of life, which is much more longer, and that by itself is divided into different stages. So there is a period between death and the day of judgment, and then there's day of judgment, and then we are either going to heaven or hell, or some people will be in a position between hell and heaven. There are three possibilities. Of course, our understanding is that it's only very wicked and vicious people who go to hell. God is so merciful and so forgiving that if someone goes to hell, is very, very much because there is no other choice. If there is any room for forgiveness, they will be forgiven. We have a story that once some people went to our fourth imam, and they said a famous scholar of that time, who was not a Shia, says, Al-ajab kullu al-ajab mimman naja kayfa naja. He said, I'm very surprised how anyone can be saved with so many problems that we human beings have. He said, I'm very surprised if anyone goes to heaven. Then they told our imam, this person says this. Imam said, no. Al-ajab kullu al-ajab mimman halak kayfa halak. He said, I'm very surprised how any person cannot be saved. Because God is so forgiving and so generous that if someone is not saved, I wonder, why he was not saved. Not that if someone is saved, I am surprised. So we have to answer to God about everything that we do, everything we say, every decision. And that is what very much shapes the way of life of a good Muslim. To be always conscious of your death and prepare your answer for the questions that you are going to be asked by God. Why you had this act or that act? Why did you say this? Why did you make this relation or cut this relation? Everything that we do or we don't do, we should have good answer for that. Therefore, this idea of always being alert and conscious and God wary becomes very important part of our spirituality. It's not a doctrine that you just read and pass the test in theological classes and then leave it aside. It's something that should be always present in our mind. Then we have lots of secondary doctrines. These are not as major and as fundamental like monotheism and prophethood and resurrection. There are secondary ones which maybe for some denomination they become very important. For example, something which maybe for some Muslims is secondary, but for us Shia is very important, is justice. Divine justice is one of our principles of denomination or faith. You may say, what about other Muslims? Don't they believe in divine justice? The answer is they all believe in divine justice. But first, not everyone takes it as a principle. Two, they have different understanding of divine justice. Even in Christianity, you might know that there are different views about whether moral values are intrinsic or not. You know, the theory of divine command theory. So in the Muslim world, we had also the same controversy. Some people say, like Ash'arites, God is just by definition. What does it mean? It means that whatever God does is just. But it's up to him to do what he wants. So if God sends pious people to hell, that's just. If he sends pious people to heaven, that is also just. So basically, we are not in a position to question or expect anything from God. Whatever he does, then we say, okay, this is justice. And based on that, we introduce Islamic understanding of justice. But the Shia and some Sunnis, like Mu'tazilites, we have different view. And this has led to many, many other issues. We believe that goodness and badness are objective. Whether you are religious or not, you should have objective understanding of what is morally right and what is morally wrong. And God never, ever does or commands to do something which is objectively wrong. Okay? So it's impossible that God sends or tells us, for example, to do similar things, send pious people to the hell, or ask us, to mistreat pious people, etc. It's impossible. Why? Before coming to the text, my intellect tells me that you cannot mistreat or you cannot, punish good people. Or for example, when it comes to the rights, many rights that people have are objective. And whether you are religious or not, whether you belong to this tradition or that tradition, you should have your sound understanding through your intellect. So the Shia have the idea that divine justice is very central and at the same time is objective. And based on the objective or intellectual understanding, we can understand many religious positions without reading any scripture. If I refer to my intellect, I can understand many Islamic rulings, and then I can find them in the scriptures. There is harmony between the two. Or another principle for us, which is a very important principle, is imamate. But not every Muslim accepts imamate as a major principle, although most of them, they accept there is a need for some leaders, but they don't accept it as a major principle, and they don't accept the conditions that we have. So this is a little bit about doctrines. I am sorry that I am mentioning many things, but the topic is very broad. And then some practices. Okay? I am sure you know some of the Muslim practices. Yeah? What is the first one that comes to your mind? Prayer. So prayer is a very important aspect of Muslim life. Reading the Quran, yes. Fasting. Giving alms. Yes? Yeah. So there are some practices which are obligatory. Some are recommended. Even the same practice sometimes has obligatory threshold, and then it becomes recommended. For example, every day we have 5 daily prayers, okay? Ritual prayers. But these are not the only prayers that we should make, but these are obligatory. But we are recommended to do more, okay? And we have lots of recommended prayers for different occasions or for daily practice. Or charity, giving alms. There is obligatory charity, but you can always do more. Okay? And there are certain things about diet that we should observe. There are certain things about relation with the opposite gender that we should observe. There are issues, practices about family life. There are lots of about, for example, transactions when it comes to buying, selling. There are things that we should not buy or sell. Or, for example, about respecting the properties of others. I cannot say my prayer in your home without your permission, or even in your shop, without your permission. Even if the shop's door is open, I cannot pray inside your shop without your permission. So there are many things that I, as a Muslim, have to observe with respect to God, with respect to people, with respect even to myself. I don't have rights to do everything about myself. Like Christianity, the same. For example, I don't have right to commit suicide. I cannot say, this is my life. God has given me this life. I can do whatever I want. No. I cannot even do everything I like with my money. I cannot waste my money. Yeah, if I have money, I cannot say I want to waste my money, I want to burn my money. No, you cannot also harm your body, your physical health, your mental health, spiritual health. You have to look after these gifts of God. So every gift of God comes with responsibility. So this is very much also in our mind, that with every gift, we have to acknowledge this as a gift. We have to look after it. If it needs nourishment, we have to nourish this gift. And we have to make sure that we are not harming this gift. So we have a very important part of Islamic scholarship built around these duties and practices, which we call, fiqh and ethics. So this is a very important part. So it's not just a matter of ideas and doctrines, it's also a matter of practices and also morality. And then what is very important is, I'm saying as the third, but not as the least, is your spirituality. Because you may have all the doctrines correctly understood. You may bring all the good practices and avoid all the bad practices, but still you may not be very close to God. Because the closeness of God can only be something that is measured in the heart. Yeah. Even if you see I'm always praying, always giving charity, and I am always, studying theology and teaching theology, you cannot say I'm a good person, because maybe I am very selfish in my heart, or I am very jealous. Okay? So it's the purity of the heart which matters the most. We have this prayer of Abraham, who is a great role model for us. And he prayed to God that لا تخزني يوم يبعثون يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. He said to God, please don't let me be disgraced on the day of resurrection, when neither money benefits nor children, except those who come with pure heart. So nothing can help me if I don't have pure heart. So we need to really work hard to purify ourselves. Prayer as a practice is meant to help with purity of the heart. But unfortunately, we human beings sometimes learn things and then we do them so, like much robots, that we make prayers every day but not necessarily become more pure. Or giving charity is meant to help us get rid of, attachments to the materialistic things. But unfortunately, we may give charity and still be attached. So fasting the same. God says, fasting is prescribed لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may become pious. But I may fast many years and I don't become pious. So this is not something that automatically happens. Yeah? You need to be conscious of God, do things with attention and sincerity, and then gradually build upon these, steps of self-purification. So self-purification is very important. In Shia Islam, but also there are some non-Shia. For example, there are Sufis who are not Shia, but when it comes to spirituality, they are very close to the Shia. That we believe spirituality is very important. And we believe everything in religion, deep inside, has a spiritual aspect. Every ritual is to be a spiritual. Yeah, not just ritual. Everything. Even if I'm drinking water, I can do it as a spiritual act. Or I can just do it to quench my thirst. Let alone prayer. Everything can be spiritual. And actually, our greater success in spirituality starts with rituals and obligations, etc. But the greater success is not made there. Maybe some Muslim brothers and sisters may not agree with me unless they listen carefully. So, where do I make most of my success in my spirituality? I say not in the prayer or fasting. It starts in prayer and fasting, but I make greater success in the rest of my life. When I finish my prayer and I go to shop or to office or meet my wife or children or neighbors, that is where I can make most of the success. Prayer is to give me direction. Prayer is to be a signpost. But most of my opportunities for self-purification is when I am dealing with people. So if I was living in a cave, it was much easier to be, practicing. But in a cave, you don't have this, opportunity of being all the time challenged and still trying to be conscious of God. Sometimes people prefer not to face challenges, but then means you are deprived from opportunities for progress. It's like, for example, you say, I don't want to take exams anymore. I finished primary school. I don't want any exams. Okay, then you cannot go to secondary school or high school or university. And where do our greater exams come? Not on the prayer mat or in the mosque or in Mecca. Our greater challenges come just in the places that we are used to them. Yeah, in my home, in the office, in the shop, when I am driving, yeah, or as a politician, when I am sitting in parliament or when I'm in government office, etc. Our greater challenges are there. So therefore, spirituality is not something that you can, limit to a certain aspect of life or certain time or certain place. Spirituality is like air. It's everywhere. It's like light everywhere. You cannot say, I want to limit it to this particular place. And then we have many teachings about moral values, which can, explain these things more, but I am hesitant to talk more about that because I want to receive more questions, so I leave aside that part. And there are some important topics that we will talk later about how we understand interfaith. We will leave it for the session that we have. How we understand the scripture, we leave it for that session. How about spirituality more? We will leave, inshallah, Sister Isra is going to talk. So these elements, inshallah, we will discuss later. And we have also a very important part of our Shia way of life, and that is through devotion that we have to God in the form of prayers and supplications. So there are many supplications that either we do together in community or home or individually. If you go to any Shia mosque, for example, you see Thursday night, in addition to daily prayer, they recite Dua Kumail. If you go Tuesday night, they have Dua Tawassul. If you go Friday morning, many places, not every place, because some people go to work, they have Dua Nudbeh. So we have this concept of praying in addition to ritual prayer in the form of supplication or whispered prayers. We have a whole book of prayer from our fourth Imam, which is As-Sahifatu Sajjadiyah, which is translated more than once into English. And one translation is called Psalms of Islam. It's like Psalms of David. And also pilgrimage for us Shia is very important. For some Sunnis is important also. But unfortunately, there are some tiny minorities who are against pilgrimage and against the whole concept of visiting the dead people. But we believe that, as I said, the dead people are only physically dead, but they are alive. They understand. And even they may have more power than when they were limited to physical life. Therefore, you see, throughout the year, millions of people visit the holy shrines that we have in different places. And then we have Arba'in procession that, I don't know, maybe more than 20 million. In a matter of few weeks, more than 20 million people in Iraq, they go for pilgrimage. They try to make at least part of it on the feet. Some people make all the journey on the feet. If, for example, they go from near cities, sometimes it takes them days. Some people try to do it part of it. And throughout the procession, there are stations that help people. And there is a beautiful spirit of, fraternity. And people selflessly try to help. It's a very interesting. There are sometimes Christians who take part also, and there are Sunnis who take part, but everyone is treated with maximum love. And this is very special, like a breath of love. If you go rest of the year, you may not receive the same treatment, although everyone tries to respect you, but that time everyone becomes selfless for a few days. And when this is finished, it seems this spirit is, somehow going back to this heaven. We hope we witness a day that the whole world permanently will be filled with this spirit of fraternity and selfless, love. Among the holy cities, in addition to Mecca and Medina, we have Najaf in Iraq, where our first Imam is buried. And it's the place that for more than 1,000 years is a place of learning. We have Karbala, again in Iraq, where our third Imam is buried. We have Kazimain near Baghdad, where two of our Imams, 7th and 9th Imam, are buried. We have Samarra, where the 10th and 11th Imam. And we have Mashhad in Iran, where our 8th Imam. The other Imams are in Medina with the Prophet. So these are our holy cities, plus the city of Qom, where the daughter of the 7th Imam is buried, and it's another center of learning for the Shia Muslims. So this is a very brief introduction to Islam and Shia Islam, and I very much thank your patience. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Thank you. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, any comments.
Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
Presentation. It was very enlightening. The first question, I have lots of questions, but first is like the easier one. Who selects the imam? Is it the community or how does the selection?
Which Imam? Those 12 Imams, or you mean leaders of the mosque? Yeah. So Imam literally means leader. So we have infallible Imams, and they are 12. Okay? And they are appointed by God. Okay? But then we use imam in another sense as a religious leader of a community. Okay? So for example, we say in this Shia community, so and so is imam. This imam, which is something that also Sunni Muslims use for religious leaders, has different meaning. This means just a local leader who leads the prayer or leads the congregation. But for the 12 Shia Muslims, imam means infallible imam, who are at different level. They are infallible, they don't make mistakes, and they are the most knowledgeable people of their time, the most humble people of their time also, the most spiritual people of their time. And we believe that they present us with exactly the same teaching of the Prophet without any alteration or misunderstanding. Something that maybe if one of you ask me about marja'iyya, then I can explain. I volunteer someone to ask questions. Did you want to ask about it? Okay. I'm joking, because this time is the time that is difficult to talk. So, something also very important. Unfortunately, in some parts of Muslim world, there is no central leadership. For example, if you ask them, who is your religious guide according to whom you perform your prayer, your fasting, pilgrimage, marriage, etc., they say, my local imam, or mufti or imam in the local mosque. Okay? But for us, it's not like this. We have grand ayatollahs who are involved in Islamic scholarship for decades and are the most outstanding scholars in the Shiite centers of learning, and also have to be known for their piety. We only follow them. Okay? So each of us has chosen between him or her and God the one that is the most knowledgeable and pious scholar or jurist. And we follow only that person. So instead of every, few hundred people following a mufti, in Shia Islam, it's a matter of every several millions or tens of millions of people following one person. So for example, we have some grand ayatollahs in Najaf, in Qom, in some other places, that they are at the top of a scholarship and piety. And we only follow them. This has saved us from superficial or shallow understandings of Islam, and doing things and then realizing that we have gone to the wrong direction. You see, sometimes, unfortunately, things are not very tidy in the Muslim world. You find some Muslims killing sometimes other Muslims. You find this in other places, of course. Other religions also may have this problem. But in Shia Islam, we try to avoid this by taking our instructions only from very top scholars who have decades of scholarship and piety. So we are not as centralized like the Catholics, okay, that we all have one pope, but we are not also very disorganized as we don't have any leader. So we have worldly leaders, but not one. And who decides who is my leader? It's only my decision. between me and God, I have to find out who is the most qualified. Even sometimes in families, maybe parents have different authority than children, or husband and wife, because everyone has to make this decision and answer to God why I chose this person. I cannot say this looked more beautiful, or this speaks my language, yeah, or is closer to my home. No, I should find who is most qualified. So this is also something that if you hear, they say, for example, Grand Ayatollah Sistani in Najaf, or Pope went to Najaf to meet him. So this gives you an idea that what level of, and caliber of personality we are talking about. Thank you for asking.
Can I ask my question?
Yes, sure.
So thank you for your lecture, and
You're welcome.
you were able to tap from the knowledge.
You're welcome.
So my question would be, how can deeper understanding of Shia theology, Islamic theology, how can it, especially on divine justice, spiritual purity, continuation of divine guidance, and the imams that you did mention,
Yes.
how can it contribute to we as ecumenical students studying advocacy for social justice, interfaith peace building, and also create a kind of mutual respect, especially in the context of my own country that I talk about,
Yeah.
which I'm coming from Nigeria. How can this the theology help us in this area?
So in the form of human, how it's available. So thanks to God, we have publications, we have lectures, and all of them are available online. So for example, we have many series of lectures on theology, on spirituality. We have books. We have lots of publications with the Christian friends. So if you get in touch with us or our sister Isra, we can send you the link. And many times we find we have lots of similarities. On the surface, things look different, but when we go deeper, we find lots of similarities out there. You're welcome.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What is in few words, of course, we have to summarize, what is the difference between Sunni and Shia?
Yes.
Just in a few words.
Yes. So there are different ways to answer. Each of them needs few words. So one is historical answer. So the historical answer is, this refers to what happened after the Prophet, about successorship to the Prophet. The Shia believe successorship to the Prophet is decided by God and was already declared by the Prophet. So we believe that the Prophet himself declared who would be the next leader. Sunni Muslims believe it was left unattended by the Prophet and decided later by community. This is historical, but then it has lots of theological implications, because then the way we understand Islam, the way we understand God, the way we understand our jurisprudence, all is affected by this, because this is a matter of authority. So it's all affected by that. But then there is a third way of understanding the difference. So I remember once I went to airport to receive our Catholic friends who were coming to come for the second time. And one of them, who was coming for the first time from London, is a Jesuit. It's Michael Barnes. I don't know if you have come across his name. He asked me on the way from airport to Qom, in the middle of the night, what's the difference between Sunni and Shia? And I said, what should I answer? And I said, okay, instead of giving historical answer, etc., I said, my understanding is this. And this is what I have put in my book, Shia Islam, origins, faith, and practice. I said Shia have three things together. If you have these three things, you are Shia, even if you think you are Sunni. If you don't have these three, you are not a Shia, even if you think you are Shia. These three are important to be together. Rationality. We have to be very rational. At the same time, spiritual. And search for justice. There are people who are rational but not spiritual. Or spiritual, but they don't bother about justice. They are, day and night in their spirituality, but they don't bother about people being killed or, bombarded. But we believe that justice and spirituality and rationality should be together. When I came for the first time to World Council of Churches, we had meeting of the Christians and the Shia Muslims, because World Council of Churches has regular dialogue with Iran. At that time, the topic was how to avoid misuse of religion for promoting violence. And I gave this presentation, which is online also, that I believe any religion, I'm not saying this is for the Shia, if any religion has these three, there would be no extremism. If you are rational and spiritual and search for justice, it brings balance. And then all people agreed, Christians and Muslims. So they put it in the final communique that all religions should have these three together. So this is our Trinity.
Let's maybe challenge a little bit more about it.
Yes,
What does it
I
mean?
love challenge.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
what does it mean that the Sunni, they are not seeking for justice?
If they seek three of them together, that's important. Some people have one, some people have two, but you need three of them. It's exactly Trinity, Two is not enough. Three together makes miracles. But one or two can make you one-sided. There are people who are very rational. We had it in the course of Islam. There are people who were very rational, but they didn't have any sense of spirituality. Or people who are very spiritual, but they don't bother about rationality or about justice. But if you have all these three together, it brings balance. And I think every religion has these three, but it's a matter of how much they discover it. I cannot think anything coming from God which would not be rational or spiritual or justice oriented.
Can I ask one more?
Yes.
Okay. What is the place of tradition in Shia theology?
Tradition in what sense? Sometimes tradition is used for Islamic narrations.
Okay.
Means because other than the Quran, we have teachings of the Prophet, sayings, for example, of the Prophet. Sometimes this is called tradition. But if you mean by tradition, the historical stances taken by the community about issue like tradition, the Catholic Church. I don't know tradition in what sense you are talking about.
Yes, I'm talking about the place of general. When you talk about tradition, I'm talking about the culture and what is the place of maybe that culture, maybe that tradition in Shia Islamic theology.
For us, tradition is very important, but it's not by itself a proof. And this is very important. So we believe that every scholar, at the same time that should consult findings of previous scholars, should respect the tradition, but should keep his mind open. When I go to the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet, I should not let tradition filter my mind. So here again is a very fine line. Yeah, it's rationality. So, and spirituality. So I am humble. Okay, I have to be humble. I have to appreciate all the great work is done over a century, but I don't let any great scholar to filter my mind. Because in the end, I have to answer God. And if I'm a scholar, if I'm not a scholar, I follow scholars. But if I am a scholar, then for me, it's prohibited in our, scholarship. For a great scholar, it's prohibited to follow another scholar. He has to use his own mental capacity, refer to the scripture, to the hadith, and comes up with his understanding. This has kept our, Shia jurisprudence very vibrant. So we don't follow any jurist, even if they were great. Every generation has to go fresh to the sources. But at the same time, we love the previous, scholars, but we don't let them shape our mind.
Maybe that is why you cherish pilgrimage.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's why you cherish pilgrimage. Because it's a journey.
Yeah, but this is intellectual pilgrimage. Many people have the physical pilgrimage, but this is intellectual pilgrimage. Yes.
I want to know more about practical analysis.
Sure.
So in that, how can I identify, you just say that I'm going to a mosque, and how can I identify this person is Shia or from Sunni? Like, is it there is a kind of, when you pray, there's kind of movement or hand or something like that? And also, like, is there, like, you worship in the same mosque or like you have different ways? I don't know. Just want to know.
The way we say our prayer is different, but some differences are not visible, some differences are visible. For example, not all Sunnis, but majority of Sunnis, when they stand for prayer, they hold their hands like this. Okay? The Shia don't do this. We release our hands. But some Sunnis also release their hands. So this cannot be 100% sign. Yeah? But another sign, maybe it's more helpful, is that we put our forehead not on carpet or rug. We put it on earthy material. It has to be either stone or the right clay, okay, soil, because we believe that the forehead should be put on something natural, earthy material, not man-made. Something that you can eat or use as dress, we don't put our forehead on that. This is maybe more helpful for you. But there are other ways also.
Because
Yes.
that is what you just said, maybe is very relevant to my studies as well. Is there a relationship or a theology behind putting the head on the natural resources that they are maybe the ground? Because I am doing a research on the relationship between the land.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Quran says, "Minha khalaqnakum wa fiha nu'id." We have created you from the earth, and you are going back to the earth. So we try to keep our connection with the earth. So it's much more humble and more original and natural to put your forehead on earth, not on carpet or plastic.
Another thing, when you talk about spirituality, I love the fact that you, in Shia theology, our spirituality goes beyond just prayer. It deals with how we relate to humans and,
Exactly.
and creation. And so I want to know, can it be extended to creation in general?
Of course. Of course. So very important part of our spirituality is how you feel towards animals, birds, plants, even water, air. Those who are spiritual see everything as a sign of God. Okay? We believe everything has signature of God. You know, your artist puts a signature on the painting. So God's signature is on everything. And therefore, for us, everything is sacred. Yeah? We cannot say only mosque or church is sacred. Yes, these are very sacred. But every land is, in a sense, sacred because all is made by God. Yeah? So there are degrees of sacredness. But you cannot find anything created by God who is not sacred. Even human life is sacred. Yeah? You don't need to be a saint. Even ordinary human beings, we believe, are sacred.
And I'm sorry. So, and can you provide me with resources
Yes.
talking about this
Yes.
as well? Yeah.
Yes.
It would be good for my
So I give you a copy of my short book on Shia Islam. I have another book which is more detailed, but I don't have it with me. So this is a short introduction to Shia Islam. And also on the back, you find some titles of some of my publications. But most of my publications are online available on Shomali.net. So this, I hope it's enough for everyone. Sorry, I should come closer. You can give to your friends. You're welcome. There was a person who claimed to be a prophet. And they asked him, "Where is your book?" Have you heard? He said, "I don't have book. I give handouts."